Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So welcome to another episode of the Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. I'm Wesley, as always, joined from the West Coast with my good friend Spencer Scott Holmes, the Renaissance man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. You know, it's a good day. Can't complain.
I always can. But Skype is doing its best to thwart our efforts tonight. But I won't be denied. All right, 10-4 rubber duck. I'm going through.
You're going through.
You can't stop me. Yeah, it's just going to happen.
Got you covered, Pigpen.
Yeah, there we go. What's up? Yeah. So tonight, if you haven't already figured it out, obviously by the title of the episode, which pretty much gives it away, we're going to be looking back at Convoy from 1978. This is as far back as we went so far on the show. We haven't even visited the 70s yet on the show. I think this is the first
I think the first
70s,
one,
yeah.
at least for this section of Via VHS. That's definitely and it's good because I love the 70s. Like, as far as movie making goes, I think that's one of the top decades of like pure fantastic films. I mean, I think there's no such thing as a bad decade in movies. Like, some people always want to go like, oh, this decade's not as good as this one. I'm like, yeah, you kind of argue it, but there is some of those few where there's just like, you get those just hardcore directors coming out, making all kinds of cool stuff, things you'll never ever see again, and so on. And Sam Peckinpah is almost like the ultimate 70s director.
Oh, man. The trivia I was reading about this guy is just unbelievable. There was an outlaw attitude in general in the 70s, and there's an outlaw attitude to this film for sure. But, all the guys coming up, whether it be, or not even coming up, just people who were at their height in the 70s. And then you also have the American Zoetrope guys. You got the Spielbergs and the De Palmas and Scorseses and Coppolas who are, hitting their stride, and they're all kind of changing the game and doing whatever they got to do. So this movie kind of fits in that vein a little bit, the outlaw theme. And Peckinpah, again, I think it's worth repeating. This is the second time we've done a Peckinpah movie. First time was on your show.
Yeah, we did The Getaway.
Yeah, we did The Getaway. Steve McQueen and Peckinpah, they're best pals. And again, it's so weird when I read the trivia. Dude died literally the day I was born.
Yeah, so you're just the reincarnation of him.
Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I'm Peckinpah with less cocaine and Quaaludes.
Exactly. Because he's like the definitive director when you think of the guy who's like just hammered on drugs and alcohol and staying up all night, and he's making like these amazing pieces, but that like that train can only run for so long before it just flies off the tracks, fire and chaos coming down, but like in that moment it's like it channels. There's something about like the 70s that you can like sort of channel like all these drugs and still create something, where I feel like if someone went to do it nowadays, it would just crash and burn before they even got started. But there was like a balance that I think people got. It's like almost like in the 60s they kind of figured out how to balance it, and in the 70s they went with it, and by the time the 80s came, some of these guys just literally petered out by about that point. But
yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah, there's some cocaine cowboy element going on with this film for sure. If you've never seen Convoy, I was going to say it's on Prime, but it's not. It's already disappeared. But I think you can see it. I checked it on Tubi and Pluto if you don't have it, or if you want to rent it somewhere. But it's actually, this is kind of similar to True Lies, where it's actually difficult to rent or buy streaming. So you have to find a physical copy, which isn't always easy these days. So,
speaking of True Lies, though, that came back on Prime. Like, it was just like,
I saw that.
It's like, what the hell? It gave us all that warning, like, this is going away. You better watch it, and so on, like that, or you're gonna have to pull out that DVD copy. It doesn't fit the widescreen TVs, and then all of a sudden it's back on there. So who knows? Convoy could be on here again in like the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm assuming what happened is because we watched that in January. True Lies, and then it went away through the month of February and March to bring it back. So I don't, who knows? I can't figure it out.
But going into like Convoy and whatnot, this is one of those ones where it's like, it's a movie I've always wanted to watch. And I think of that poster because you just see Chris Christopherson. He's just standing there next to his truck and Ally McGraw's on his shoulder and he's got no shirt on. He's just looking as manly as can be, just like hanging out there and whatnot. And it's just like, I don't really know what this movie's about, but it's Sam Peckinpah. There's semi-trucks in there. Like, I'm pretty darn sold. He's got Ally McGraw. Like, okay, come on. Like, do we really need to know more?
No, you don't. And Christopherson, man, first of all, my wife's got a huge thing for Christopherson.
He's got a house like a mile above me over here.
What, for real?
Yeah, he's got a ranch out here. Like, I'm kind of wondering if he still has it to this day, but for many years he's had one.
That's interesting. Oh, Christopherson, Christoph, man. Yep. he has that. He oozes charisma. Mm-hmm. He's a cool guy. You see him, and you're like, oh God, I want to get a beer with this guy. He's got great stories. That might not even be true.
Yeah,
but he just has that air about him, and he's not like tremendously versatile when it comes to music or acting, really. Mm-hmm. But he's just got this air about him. He's just so damn cool.
Yeah, that's always kind of how he is, because like in general, like there's not like, you think of him, he's in a lot of movies, but at the same time it's like there's not like tons of those like, oh my God, remember when Chris Christopherson was like in this movie? It's not like he gets like those Clint Eastwood roles or anything like that. But at the same time, whenever he's in a movie, you get real excited anyways. You're like, dude, I'm here to watch him.
Oh man. Well, dude, when I was reading the trivia for this, there's a lot of things I didn't know about him, which is surprising because, I kind of, that group of guys, that kind of highwaymen, the Johnny Cash. I mean, my son's named Waylon. Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of dig that vibe, and my wife does too. And, I was surprised how much I learned about him, that he was like an Oxford Rhodes Scholar and helicopter pilot, dude, just like
Army Ranger, like highly decorated.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, man. He is a badass dude.
Yeah.
Legit. So even if he's not the best actor in the world, he's just so cool that it works.
Well, think too, it's like, someone says that maybe he's not the best actor or whatever, it's like he's got all these other talents that none of these other actors have anyways.
Exactly.
He's the guy doing so many different things at once, so whatever.
Yeah. He was it I don't know if you read that whole thing about him landing a helicopter in Johnny Cash's yard to give him tapes. Because he wanted to show Johnny Cash he could sing, so he just landed a helicopter there. And, listen to my music, damn it.
He kicks down the door, comes in with an M16 in one hand. Johnny Cash is trying to pull a tractor out of the mud again.
Oh, man. I could go on about Johnny Cash all night. But anyway, so Convoy 1978. Wait, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got Chris Christopherson, obviously in the lead role. You mentioned Ally McGraw, Ernest Borgnine in this film. I'm already laughing. I didn't know a whole lot about this film before. I had never seen it either, surprisingly. Didn't know Burt Young was going to be in it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't either. That was like the surprise when I saw the credits roll.
Yeah, I was like, what? We got Paulie. And his truck said Paulie on it.
It's like Paulie Trucking. I love how, because it's like 2 years after Rocky, so that like they're just like, yeah, sure, maybe he just thought like, they're probably not going to be in a Rocky movie anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't realize he'd be like the longest like surviving character. Like everybody else seems to die way before Paulie does.
Yeah, that's true.
Rocky just can't get rid of the freeload like brother.
He was there. He was in the sidetrack for a second. So he was there in Rocky, the one we call Rocky Balboa, right? He was in that one, right?
Yeah, that's the one I think where he passes away is in the fifth one.
Yes.
Or the sixth one, I mean.
Yeah. So because then in Creed, in the new Creed movies, which are awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
He's not there. They kind of reference that. So, so we got Madge Sinclair, who I was just watching in Coming to America. I just watched that the other day because the new one's coming out, because I thought, why not?
Well, it's one of the best movies ever. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Might as well revisit this one, which I haven't done in a long time. Seymour Castle, Cassie Yates, some semi-recognizable guys. Bill Kuntz. essentially, this is, Burt Reynolds era. So Christopherson is as cool as he is. He's kind of like, okay, well, you want Burt Reynolds first for this movie.
Yeah.
And he can't play in every movie. So old Christopherson was probably the backup.
Yeah, because it kind of is. Because, after Burt Reynolds, when you got Gator and White Lightning and so on, and kind of setting all these movies in motion to have that kind of like truck driving, car chasing, escaping the law, that's one of my favorite. I love that genre of movies, and it's a short run. Like, it kind of goes from like early 70s to about mid 80s, and then from about that point on, you just don't see these movies too often anymore. There's a few kind of remnants here and there. I mean, you could almost even say something like the Dukes of Hazzard, like remake in 2004, whatever it was, or 3. Mm-hmm. You had there's that one with Patrick Swayze where he's like Black Dog, where he's like the semi truck driver. Kind of reminds me of that.
Dude, I swear to you, hold on, not even 24 hours ago, I'll find it before this show's over, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll prove it to you. I literally just got that VHS last night. Somebody gave it to me.
That's a great movie, though. Like, have you ever seen that one? God.
Yeah, man. Dude, of course I saw it. It has Randy Travis in it. Which is my boy. Hey, also from North Carolina, just down the road from Charlotte.
There you go.
Old Randy Travis. Love Randy Travis. He played my great. He played one of the youngers in one of the movies. I can't remember which one he played Cole Younger, I think, which was cool. So anyway, that's way off topic. I am related to the youngers. That's what I was getting at. And so I like Randy Travis for that. Where was I going with all this? Oh yeah. So you were talking about the outlaw element and kind of like that adventure element that kind of existed in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I am fascinated by it. Wasn't just movies that had that, because I watch a lot of music documentaries. Mm-hmm. And like when you hear stuff about, like, a great one is the Eagles documentary, or like Muscle Shoals, there was this real sense of adventure just in general in the 70s, like these people going out on their own, like, late 60s too, and just kind of, or with a group of guys just barnstorming the countryside or doing whatever it is they can do. And kind of like sticking it to the man, living life their own way. And it permeated all the way through the movies. And you had a lot of good directors to bring that there. But like when watching a movie like this, it kind of reminds me of those documentaries and stuff and things like that. And man, what a time to be alive. Yeah,
well, it's almost like it's like a very piratey time. I mean, nobody's like dressed up like pirates, but it has like a very pirate feel. I mean, that's almost like that Southern kind of pride of that time period, is that, like, you load up your car, you got like whatever kind of like job you're selling, or hustling and whatnot. And then like you're fighting the law and, going along and blasting tunes and so on and meeting people along the way. And sometimes you got your chimpanzee buddy with you, like Clint Eastwood and Cliff Clyde. But it's just like I love those, like, it's just like that Southern era of filmmaking where they just made these really good movies kind of. And I remember there was a period too where they didn't think they were going to be able to sell that. They're like, who the hell is going to go see these movies? And obviously it sold to not only Southerns but everybody in America and other countries as well too, and they turned out to be big hits, Burt Reynolds and so on. But this one fits like directly in like the dead center of those kind of movies, like right when the boom was really like exploding.
Yeah, and Outlaw Country had a lot to do with that. Yep. And I think, they kind of go hand in hand. I think they kind of benefited from each other, just that whole attitude. And it really was that, like, looking back at that era that you mentioned, I really have not thought about it like I should, living in the South and growing up in the South, but it really was like a big time. My grandpa used to tell me stories, slightly off track, but there's a movie I want to bring up later that I think we should review, Stroke or Ace, about Burt Reynolds being in the area where we lived growing up and like hanging out with this guy, Harry Gant, who was a race car driver. I've met Harry Gant a few times, and he owned his race car. And it was really like Hollywood kind of embraced the South a little bit there in the late 70s and stuff, and really music and everything did. So man, that would have been a great time because now everybody hates us again.
Yeah, I know. No, it's just a point. That's what I think about. It's just like God, like because I was watching a Cheech and Chong movie yesterday, and Cheech and Chong had a Confederate flag there. So go figure. Like, are you gonna call Cheech and Chong racist? That's all I thought about. It was just like, it's like. In 1983, nobody would have thought of it, but like, because I think people don't understand sometimes that was the rebel spirit. Like they've gotten this all mixed match confused thing, but like people weren't nobody was singing that as a racist element. That was like a very like, hey, you know what? We were high fly. I mean, look at even like what's his name in Eat Your Dirt? Opie from fucking Andy Griffith.
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard. I remember, like, he's got just a hat on in that one, just a Southern hat, Confederate flag, like he's part of, like, the Confederates and whatnot. And, like, once again, like, do you think Ron Howard was thinking, like, oh, yeah, because I'm wearing this hat, that's going to be a racist and so on? Like, I just think people just got real confused all of a sudden the last, like, handful of years.
There's a little bit of PC in that, and also the fact that, unfortunately, and I'll add my little 2 cents to that, a lot of people did use it nefariously. So when bad people use it nefariously and the good people who have good intent don't step up to do something right to fix it, that's where it gets out of hand. And that's been going on my entire life down here. And I have mixed feelings about it. But I will say, though, on the good part of that is, everybody likes to focus on the negative aspects of Southern culture and different things like that. Everybody's moving here. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves it here. Like it's so awesome. There are things to be very proud of. You can look and say, hey, we did this wrong, and these things need to be addressed, and we need to get better about certain things, but still be proud of it. And there is some of the charm that's being lost just from when I was a kid till now. And seeing movies like this, like Convoy, kind of reminds me of like my papa. And like stories he would tell me growing up and people he knew. My papa had a CB in his truck. Mm-hmm. When we get down to Florida every year, he'd be talking on the CB. I'm like, you're driving a 67 Chevy piece of shit. Like, you're talking to these truckers.
Well, I remember in like high school, that was the thing. It was like, we had these CBs, and like, dude, we got to install these in the cars. Like, this would be so cool. It's just like the Dukes of Hazzard. You know what I mean? We'll have our own, because this was still kind of a if you had a cell phone, you were kind of rich, so it was still like proto, like, or if you did have it, it was like emergencies only. It was that point. You didn't just call, but like, man, if I had a CB, boy, we could just be driving around talking anywhere and so on like that. Instead, we just cheapened out and we just use like the regular like walkie-talkies, like the Cobra ones, which it's kind of like it's like a CB, but not as exciting.
But it's still cool though.
It is.
It's still really, really cool.
So you have that. And then, I mean, the other thing, too, is just you watch Convoy. And it's actually kind of funny because it's like this movie kind of embodies like sort of like the southernness, but it takes place in New Mexico, like Arizona. It's still the South. I mean, I always like to refer to like whenever like someone's in like Southern California, I'm like, oh, you come from the deep South then. Bunch of Southerners down there. But I kid you not that you watch this. Moonshining, and doing all those like San Diego things, hanging out with Tony Hawk and whatnot. But this is one of those ones though where like when you watch these like trucker movies, like, because I feel like being a trucker nowadays, I mean, obviously you'd have a newer truck and so on, and there'd be those kinds of bells and whistles that came along with it. But I feel like the golden age of trucking is like, it wouldn't be exciting nowadays like it once used to be. Like, seemed like back in the day, you're literally a road cowboy almost. You know what I mean? You just kind of...
definitely.
You go from town to town. You sort of set your own rules. You get a convoy of buddies together, and you guys all work together and whatnot. It doesn't matter who anybody is. Like, as long as you're part of the team and you kind of almost like unionize in your own special way. You just see this, and it's like, this sounds cool. It almost even reminds me of like, even like, you take like Jim Croce, he has like songs about like when he was like a trucker and whatnot like that. It's just like that lifestyle, like that like late 60s, 70s trucking, just that sounds like one of those ones like if you were a part of that was probably a very special time that can't be recaptured.
No, it can't. It can't. My dad actually, what he does for a living, he works for Freightliner. Mm-hmm. Helps to make trucks, and they're super safe now, and really, I mean, it's definitely more comfortable to be a trucker now.
Yeah.
I mean, all the amenities and stuff that they have. That's not making light of the job. If you are a trucker and you're listening to this, I'm not saying it's not hard. Trust me, I know it is. But I'm saying it's definitely more comfortable than it was back in the day. But you're right. It had that cowboy element, pirate element.
Yeah.
It's maybe we're romanticizing it too much, but I like to think we're not.
Well, it seemed like back, you watch Convoy, and I kid you not, it literally feels like this is like, Han and Chewbacca of like the 70s.
It is.
Cruising around, smuggling stuff and whatnot. I mean, well, these guys technically aren't smuggling anything. They're doing everything kind of, legal. But, it just has this cool element. Like, I'm just watching this, and it's just like, it's such a cool, like, you want to be there. Like, even though, like, the law's after you and the bear's coming down. But it is that thing, like, man, does this look like I want to be part of this team. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Got a bear in the air. Yeah, it's So, okay, let's kind of dive into what Convoy is about, actually, because it's honestly this movie's kind of convoluted. It's just kind of a mess. Mm-hmm. You can't really figure out why the characters are making some of the decisions they're making or what's really going on, and all of it seems unnecessary. And then this movie does really find itself towards a little bit past halfway. And it gets really, really good. It was good in the beginning, but it's weird. So essentially, Chris Christopherson is for some reason, he Rubber Duck. Mm-hmm. That's his CB handle. And he's the hero. Everybody wants to be him. Everybody follows him. They look up to him. He's kind of, womanizing, kind of, got girlfriends in every little, truck stop.
I mean, he's just living the cowboy lifestyle, really.
Yeah. Before we go further, so when you were watching this, okay, so one element, before we get to the deep part of the plot, Ernest Borgnine is like, I can't remember his name now, all of a sudden. Lyle?
Yeah, it was like Dirty Lyle or something like that.
Dirty Lyle, yeah. So when this movie really kicks off, they're at this like truck stop, and then Chris Christopherson's got his girlfriend there, but he's kind of like, eyeballing some other girl, and he goes into the truck to fornicate with this lovely young lady.
Yeah, the waitress.
Did you pick up on the fact that was Ernest Borgnine's wife?
Well, it's weird because I didn't even think anything of it when I was watching the movie. That didn't even cross my mind. It's just like, it's a waitress, whatever, like that. And then when I was kind of reading stuff later on, they're like, is it his wife or is it his daughter? Like, it kind of like went back and forth, yes. Like that it could be, because they only have like a couple moments, because there's a part where like once you kind of get the story rolling, and it's like the interesting thing about this, it's almost like the fact that it becomes like a small incident just snowballs into this massive thing, and it's almost like the characters themselves don't really know what to do about it and whatnot. No. But that's why they just kind of are almost kind of not really running from it, but they're trying to carry on with their lives, but then the police just keep like upping the ante to like stop them because they got nothing better to do, obviously. But
yeah.
But it's weird because it's like there's just only like 2 lines that he talks with that waitress, but he says something like, "We'll talk about it when we get home." And I'll say this, yeah, I feel like I could see that being more his daughter than his wife. I mean, I guess Ernest Borgnine, maybe he does. Maybe that is his wife. But
yeah,
I feel like that, there, and maybe it might be, this is one of those movies that like when Sam Peckinpah originally put this together, he turned in like a 4-hour cut of this film. And I think he was serious about it. Like, here, take it. And then they cut it out, and then, of course, that made him angry. They're like, you cut out all my material in there, and so on like that. And it'd be interesting to almost see, this is like that perfect example. I really wish movies like this, when you know that there's all this footage sitting around, it doesn't have to be the new version of it, but, like, could you just put a special edition version together? Like, this day and age, I mean, like, I know it costs money to do that, but like it's not like it cost before. You just got to scan. I don't care. It doesn't have to be the greatest looking thing. Just scan that footage in, get somebody to sort of edit together that take again, because I would love to see what that extended stuff is, because I bet you that might explain that daughter thing or wife thing even better.
Yeah, it was intended to be his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But I was starting to wonder that, because it would make more sense why he hated Rubber Ducks so much. Dirty Lyle hated Rubber Ducks so much. And then it just like, even I was just thinking, oh, that'd be a cool wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like I was like, oh, that'd be really cool if they did that. But yeah, so I barely remember how the beginning of this film goes, the very beginning.
Well, it's like they're speeding along, trying to, make good time. There's like the four main characters. And then, like, all of a sudden, they run up there's a police officer scanning, so they slow down, but he still pulls them over. And then Ernest Borgnine gets out, and he pretty much just, says, hey, well, you guys are speeding, so I want $50 from you each. And then it keeps climbing up or something like that. Or it might start at 30, and he keeps going, and whatnot. And, Rubber Duck's just like, you know what, we'll pay it. It's okay, fine, whatever. We'll continue on and so on. But then it's like, as they keep going, it's almost like he trails behind them and then follows them to the diner there. And then that's when it all kind of comes together, and it turns into this big brawl and so on, because he goes up to Spider Mike, of course, like the poor black guy in the movie, and starts hassling him, saying he's a vagrant, though he's got his own truck, and whatnot. He's doing his thing, but he's getting hassled and so on. And then, of course, the fight starts, and then Chris Christopherson comes in, saves the day. You get a great brawl. I mean, the thing about this movie...
You get a really good brawl.
This movie is shot so well, too. It's one of those things... I mean, it's a Sam Peckinpah movie, so you kind of expect that, but, everything about, the fights look great. I mean, just the driving scenes, it's probably one of the best shot driving movies of, this time period. I mean, there's cool angles all the time. Kind of those shots you just don't... You almost wouldn't expect even in an older movie and so on, where they just get them from just, these... interesting angles around the semi-trucks and whatnot. And, yeah, coming up to, that brawl and whatnot just escalates and just tears the place up and whatnot. And then the guys, they tie the police officers down to, the tables and, we got to get out of here and take on off. This is just escalated way more. All we're doing was backing up our buddy, and next thing you know, we're running from the law.
Yeah, it really kind of escalates in a weird way, and you can't, they lightly introduce, a subplot about they don't do a good job of introducing the subplot about Lyle's wife. And then there's also, they barely mention being the union, a truckers union. Yeah. Hey, when we get together, you're not going to be able to, hustle us anymore like this and stuff. And I think that was one of the big ideas of the movie, that this was the beginning of that. All these truckers getting together and being like, you're not pushing us around anymore and messing with us. But yeah, they leave this, awesome brawl, which you're right, was shot very well. And when you're talking about the shots in this film, the only film I can think of around this time frame that was equally as good, maybe even slightly better, was the original Mad Max. About the same, I think maybe the year after.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close. Yeah, actually, I think it might be before. I think it's 77 almost, but I could be wrong.
Is it? Yeah, it's around this time frame. And both these movies are shot really well, but yeah, essentially there's this one little tiny altercation with Ernest Borgnine's character just bullying them and harassing them, and he's trying to up the ante and really trying to get Spider Mike in trouble. And then the next thing you know, when they peel out, this convoy first starts little and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the thing, why does Ally McGraw, why is she even there?
Well, she starts off in the beginning. She's got what kind of vehicle is she driving in there? She's driving a...
That's the beginning of the movie. Yes.
Yeah, because remember, and she's speeding along, and she kind of they think it's kind of playful and so on. Then of course cops come by and whatnot, or I guess because they even throw her under the bus if that one goofy cop at the very beginning there.
Yeah.
But and then her vehicle ends up breaking down. It's she's got to get. I almost want to say she's got to get to Texas, but. Well, maybe because of the escalation, they start going the opposite direction, because then they're driving through New Mexico, kind of going towards Arizona.
She said she had to catch a plane to get to Texas, so maybe he was going to take her to the airport. I don't know. It's the way they get her involved in this film is really just it's ham-fisted just to get her in that truck.
I really will say it's one of those ones, I know that Ally McGraw is the big actress. She's almost at the time period, this is your real huge selling point is you got Ally McGraw in here. And I feel that that's the thing what they want to do is they just want to get, how we get Ally McGraw in there? Well, she needs a ride and Chris Christopherson's going to give her a lift. And that's kind of they almost by this time, they should have just made her another trucker. Geez, you got as many of them there too. Why couldn't she just be one of the other truckers?
Yeah, I mean,
that. They got female truckers in there, so it's not like it's, wouldn't have been kind of weird for the time or anything like that. Like, that's what I think is kind of interesting about this movie. This movie's just got, like, all walks of life for driving these trucks. Like, it's almost like, I think there's a lot of, like, symbolization in this movie of, like, kind of like, hey, in truckers, we kind of have freedom. We accept everybody. Anybody can be part of the team and whatnot as long as you're hardworking, and you're a, good, team player and what have you. Like, it's got this very broad kind of feel to it, and I think it's kind of showing that the police officers in this one are kind of like, they're just kind of a little bit behind the times. They're stopping the progress of, like, business and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they get Ally McGraw in there.
Yeah, it's very Willie Nelson.
Yeah, it's totally that.
So anyway, as they're going along down the road, the movement starts growing, the convoy starts growing, people start introducing themselves and randomly, and I'm Mississippi Mike, I like saltwater taffy, that kind of thing. And then one of the trucks flip over while they're going through a town, and you said that was like not supposed to happen.
Yeah, apparently they were just making those turns, and one of the trucks flipped over, and they're like, "Yep, we'll just put that in the movie then." That's what happened then, because her name was like Black Widow. It wasn't Black Widow. It was Widow.
Oh, what was it?
It was something Widow. That's what I meant, right? I want to say Black Widow, but it's like no, not like the Marvel character, but
yeah. Yeah, so her truck flips over. They get her in one of the other trucks. And they're just kind of moving on down the road, and Dirty Lyle's chasing them. They have this weird kind of Dukes of Hazzard stunt where he goes to a chicken coop or something.
Oh, he shoots off and goes to the top of, like, a barn and explodes everywhere and whatnot. And then I like how they even check on him. He's just, like, down there like the old man, just like, oh, be like, okay, you'll be fine. Just don't worry about us now. You learned your lesson.
Yeah, let us go, but he doesn't. Lyle never gives up. It's very much Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote throughout this whole film with those guys.
I mean, it's just like Smokey and the Bandit, where, like, they will stop at nothing to, like, get him.
Oh yeah, it's very, very much like that. And basically, these truckers right now at this point are trying to get to New Mexico because they think this thing will completely end if they go into another state, another jurisdiction. So that's basically what's going on. They go through this dusty road and do all that. And we're not going to go through the entire plot, but what basically happens as this movie's going is this thing turns into a movement. And as these people you have reporters and stuff, the governor's getting involved, everybody's trying to figure out what this movement is. A lot of different people are trying to capitalize on it, politically, financially. And they ask Chris Christopherson what it is, and he's pretty much stoic throughout the whole. He has the same kill throughout the entire movie, pretty much.
Well, I like because what it really reminds me of is in Forrest Gump when he decides to go running. And he's literally just running, and everybody's like, "What are you running for? You got to have a reason. There's something like this." He's like, "I just want to go running." That is literally what this movie is.
I was running. Yeah,
Chris Christopherson's just like, we just started driving, and you guys started attaching stuff to us. We're literally just trying to do our job. That's like at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm trying to get to work, in a sense. Yeah.
Well, when they stop at that one point, they have that like kind of little party, which looks fun as hell. Like they're singing songs and everybody's showering together.
Just outdoor shower, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Looks so damn cool, man. They got this place set up so well. Like I want to hang out with these people so bad. But, Christopherson and Ally McGraw have a little bit of a dialogue, and he's like, they want to know what this thing is, and basically he says, I want to know I don't even know what this thing is. I don't know what's going on. The governor's there, and that's when they figure out that Lyle, who separated himself from the pack because his wife's about to pop,
or Spider Mike.
Not Lyle, sorry. Spider Mike that separates himself from the pack, they beat his ass and throw him in a prison in Texas.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's kind of interesting is this, like, there's this almost like this movement thing going on. People look at like Chris Christopherson like he's the leader. It's like, no, one of my best buddies is in jail, and I'm gonna go get him out of there. I don't care about this movement. It's not me. And like, I was literally just trying to get away. And it's like, my buddy's in jail. I'm going. And so of course, Paulie joins in and a couple of the other main crew. And they just go and they charge into that Texas town. And that part's really awesome. Where the semi trucks almost come like Maximum Overdrive style and just start there's like businesses there. I'm like, does that business have anything to do with the police jail there? You just ran through like someone's like flower shop.
Yeah. Well, I actually really like how that whole scene was executed. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, where when Duck, after this meeting with the governor, and he's all pissed off, and he finds out Spider Mike is all beat up in Trucker's Hell, as they're calling it. Mm-hmm. And he decides to go off. They're like, "My Rubber Duck, you really leaving?" And he just looks at him all Christopherson-like and gets in his truck and starts it up. But as he goes down the road, he's all alone. He just stops and idles. And then you see the other trucks come up. His really close friends, the guys he trusts. Mm-hmm. And it was cool because you knew that there was this unspoken thing like, hey, I'm going down the road. You meet me there. We're going to go beat some ass.
Yeah, exactly. Like they really just had it. Like, you know what? And that was the thing though too. It's like because they were using Spider Mike as like the bait. The police officers are like, "Hey, we're gonna get Chris Christopherson this way. We're gonna get the Duck." But Chris Christopherson's like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I know it's sort of a trap, but I'm going in anyways. Yeah,
he's Chris Christopherson. You mean stopping him? He's Mr. Outlaw.
Yeah,
that went to Oxford.
And then the other thing I think about too, even with like his, one, I mean, that you always heard throughout life, like, hey, 10-4 Rubber Duck, and I just kind of went like, oh shit, that's where it came from. Is this movie? I mean, I guess you can kind of say technically the country song that this movie's based on, which is kind of interesting. I love how very rarely do you see that like a movie based off a song.
It only happens in country songs, I feel like.
Well, because country songs have stories in them. You know what I mean? That's the difference, because you get those ones where it's like, hey, there's a 3-act story right there in that song, But
I think they made a movie out of that Reba McEntire song, that Fancy song.
Oh.
I don't know. There's a couple of her songs I think they made a movie into, actually.
Yeah, well, I could see that and so on,
Yeah.
But the other thing that's kind of interesting, too, is like I was thinking is the little rubber duck emblem. I guess I just wouldn't have known it before because I hadn't seen the movie yet. But like in Death Proof, I like how Quentin Tarantino puts that on Kurt Russell's car.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where I recognized that from.
Yeah, it took me a moment.
Bugging me. Yeah, I was like, it wasn't until I read the trivia that I'm like, oh, okay, that's where it kind of clicked. But that was really, really cool. And the whole end scene and everything is kind of crazy. Well, actually, I should take that back. This has a couple endings as well. Kind of like Beastmaster, where it's like, oh, it's over.
Oh, wait
a second. No, it's not. There's going to be another big ending to this. Because when they broke Spider-Man out of prison, I felt like they could have ended it there. Mm-hmm. And you have, Christopherson and Dirty Lyle that have their little dialogue back and forth. And he's like, it's not over for me. And Christopherson's like, it's over for me. And he leaves. I'm like, okay, the movie's going to end. I'm like, oh, there's like 20 minutes left, or 15 or so. Uh-huh. Something's about to happen.
And you get the very like Western, like, we're going to Mexico. It's the only way left.
Yes. Yeah, that's their only option. He's going to Mexico, and he's got Polly with him, or Pigpen. Yeah. Well, he had a different name at the beginning of the movie. Love Machine, I think it was.
Yeah. That sounds like such a Paul. That sounds like the total Pauly name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they just said, no, you're Pigpen because you stink. And whatever happened to the pigs?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Does he still have?
He's still carrying them around? Because poor Spider Mike always had to be behind Pigpen. And he had, his windows down and whatnot. And he was like, of course, all the pigs. You'd think they'd put Pigpen at the very end if he's got all the stinky pigs with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah, they at the beginning, he's carrying pigs. That's why they call him Pigpen. And then you don't really see him again. And before we get to the very end, one thing I was kind of disappointed with this movie about, but I guess it makes more sense the way the movie ends. Mm-hmm. So there's a roadblock scene middle way through the movie. And this is actually a really good, well executed scene too. This is, to me, where the movie started getting really, a little bit better put together, a little bit more coherent. Mm-hmm. Was when they're coming up on that roadblock, and then you got the bear in the air. Bear is lingo for cops, if you haven't figured that out yet.
Kind of relate to the Smokey the Bear. Like, it's kind of weird. It's almost like they get the Forest Service or the fire department confused with, like, I always kind of wonder how that comes. It's like, because they call them Smokies and Bears, meaning, like Smokey the Bear, but I'm like, Smokey the Bear doesn't work for the police department.
No. Maybe it was like the brown uniforms. A lot back then, they were always wearing brown. I felt like
maybe that's what it was then. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, sorry, I just knocked something over. Wow, that was
sounded like
scary.
a cassette falling.
I think it was. It was probably Black Dog, but anyway, so they're coming up on this roadblock, and then they're like, how are they going to get out of this? This kind of was first time I was actually in suspense in the whole movie, because at the beginning it's just so silly and goofy and kind of stupid, honestly, that you're just like, let's go with it and have fun. Mm-hmm. But this part of the movie actually was really good. And then the bear in the air realizes that he's, Rubber Duck is carrying chemicals. Mm-hmm. So they got to move the roadblock, because if he runs into everybody's going to blow up and die. And I thought what they're going to do at the end of this movie is be like, psych, I wasn't carrying anything. I had an empty load the whole time, carrying that in my back pocket. But no, they blow that shit up.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of those ones like, this is still like, you got to still have the big explosion. Even if it's in the 70s, people love a good explosion. And,
yeah.
And, I think of like a lot of these kind of car movies, like the guy would end up dying towards the very, like Vanishing Point. That's another one where like he shoots in there. Like I remember because of Vanishing Point, like that movie, he's like 2 steps away from coming past, like in a sense where I live at. And then they blow him up right there because it shows it on the map. They're like, there's Yosemite. He's going to be here any moment. And then boom. But like that was kind of the thing in a lot of those car movies, is that the guy goes to the very end and dies and so on like this. And this is where I actually do think if there was that Sam Peckinpah extended director's cut, whatever, I bet you the ending was actually different in his. Because in this one, like, he goes and there's a tank and they blow up the bridge. It's literally like the old-fashioned, Old West kind of thing, but just modernized for the 70s. And an explosion goes and Rubber Duck goes off the edge and whatnot and into the water, into the river and what have you. And then later on, they're having almost like a memorial service thing that's like huge. Of course, the governor's using it like as like, his new like, vote for me like campaign. But they're kind of like putting him up there as like, hey, he was a hero. He stood up for like truckers union and all that kind of things like that. And then you see Ally McGraw finds him with like the old like hippie like Jesus freak people that have been like tailing along too. He's like back there with like a beard and survives. He's like, what, you don't think a duck can swim or whatever?
Yeah,
but I really don't feel that does not seem like a Sam Peckinpah like ending. I feel like he would have died and that would have been the end of the movie, because that's a very 70s style. I feel like that almost shows that's coming into like an 80s style ending when you think about it.
Yes. Well, I was going to say though, that's the one time you can pull that ending off though, was late 70s, because the movie that was one of the trademarks of the 70s is movies, Chinatown.
Yeah,
movies had sad endings sometimes. And so I have a feeling that played out better then than it does now, especially if you will, or unless you have the context of 70s movies. But yeah, it was kind of cheesy and weird. And I kind of saw it coming a little bit. But it did. I wouldn't have been shocked if he did die either. I was thinking, okay, I could see this happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I feel it's one of those ones that both endings, I think, do work. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. But just because it's Sam Peckinpah and just because it's kind of that, that 70s and so on, I bet you in the original version, he would have died. That just seemed kind of like it. Like, he would have went down, Butch Cassidy kind of style and whatnot,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one good thing about him not dying though in this one, and usually I'm for it if it serves the story, but he does get one over on Lyle at the end.
Yeah, that is true.
Lyle sees him, and he's like, "You son of a bitch!" He kind of mumbles it under his breath, and I'm like, "Okay, that actually is one really good reason to keep him alive, just to kind of like f you to Lyle,
Yeah, no, I do agree. I do like that too. That's what I feel. It can kind of go technically both ways. There's not really one or the other that's kind of better, but like I can kind of see it. And it is, yeah. He kind of gets there and whatnot, and, pretty much rides off into the sunset with the hippies and Ally McGraw. Everything works out.
To who knows where? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a fun movie, and obviously we just pulled the shit out of it. So you've never seen Convoy, watch it anyway. Watch it anyway. It's fun. It's silly. Film has about a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. I read some of the reviews for it. I can't say I disagree with a lot of the reviews. It's one of those films. It's what I call the Rocky IV films. It's I know this is bad. I'm watching this. I know this is bad. I don't care. It's not as good as Rocky 4.
Yeah, well, yeah, Rocky 4 is coming out with a director's cut from Stallone.
Wait, what?
Literally, I saw some videos of Stallone. He's like, hey, right now I'm working on editing a new version of Rocky 4 right now. You know, I'm mixing the sound and everything. Look at me go! And he's out there doing it. It's like, oh shit! Like Stallone's literally going back and putting together an extended director's cut of Rocky 4. Like, so it should be coming out like in the next month or 2 or 3 or something like that. I was like, dude, Rocky 4 is already in my book as a perfect like 10 out of 10 film. So like, if there's an extra extended cut of it and so on like that, I am like so sold.
We might have to honor that by going through the Rockies. I
think so. But yeah, so like that, I can't remember where that got us all let off of, but
yeah, well, I was saying that this movie's pretty dumb at times. It's kind of not well put together at times, and some of that might have to do with the cuts that they made to the film. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where the movie, in that movie it works tremendously well, but that movie is actually hatcheted altogether. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's actually, the original cut of that film is way, way different and has a lot of plot points that when you're pointed out later on, you realize, oh man, that there's some things that are said in that movie that doesn't make sense. I feel like that's the same thing with Convoy, mm-hmm. where some of the things that were kind of convoluted and kind of weird and just didn't make sense were better explained in that original cut. But despite all that, it's great fun. It really is.
Well, yeah, because that's what I feel. Like, because I saw some of the reviews, and I think a lot of people, I'm like, they just obviously didn't get the movie. Some of those guys, like, I'm not saying the movie's like perfect, but like it's a hangout picture is what this one is. You're kind of like coming in just to sort of the trucker lifestyle. You get the lingo. You kind of see it, like how they go about it. You get this Western aspect to it, and I don't know, like the whole way through, I'm like, I'm having a good time. I'm having fun when there is action and, all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's done well. It's shot amazing. The pacing's good. Even like, it's just like some of the things aren't explained, but I almost feel like it's supposed to be almost like you're kind of along for the ride and you just met these people, but like, and they're going to say like inside stuff and you're not going to get it. But you're kind of there anyways. You're only here for this 2-hour trip, so you got to kind of absorb it all in. But I don't know. I actually loved the hell out of this. I was really impressed.
Yeah, it's the 70s Mad Max Fury Road, but with
semi trucks.
But with semi trucks and based on a country song.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than that, they're very similar.
Yeah, Mad Max could almost be a country song. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I listen.
Be an Australian country song.
Yeah, just throw some didgeridoos in there. It's just Australian now, and how it works. But yeah, so Convoy, 1978. I had fun with this. I'm not gonna say it's one of the best films that we've done so far. I would put it slightly above Beastmaster, but it does have a charm to it. Christopherson is so damn cool. Ally McGraw is so damn cool.
Yeah.
And the characters are very lovable. And that is one thing that drives this film is the villains are pretty stupid and you don't really like any of them or even love to hate them. Mm-hmm. But the camaraderie that they have with all these little characters, it just seems so fun to be there.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those ones. Like, you can see why this. I'm really assuming this has got to be one of those like top Tarantino films that he probably really enjoyed as a kid.
Oh God, I bet so.
It's Sam Peckinpah, so I always feel Sam Peckinpah is very like proto Tarantino, anyways. But this one here, I just feel like it has just a lot of those kind of moments. I feel like even like when I see something like Jackie Brown, like you could just see like. It almost has like that feel of just like, hey, you're just jumping around, hanging out with these characters and so on, seeing their lifestyle and like what they do. It reminds me kind of like that. Yeah,
it's really good. It's Duel was not too about the same time.
That's a great movie too.
Yeah, we should do Duel sometime. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show. I think I have. I've been in that truck.
Oh, really? In the Duel truck?
It's the guy that owns it. Well, I don't know if he still does, but a few years ago he did. Mm-hmm. Is ironically, we were talking about the race car driver Harry Gant. He's from Taylorsville, North Carolina, and that truck is also in Taylorsville, North Carolina.
Really?
This guy owns it. Yeah, he just ran. He owns he has a huge collection of all kinds of trucks, not all movie related, but he has that one. And I tried to get him to bring it to the St. Jude charity event I was going to do. I was getting a bunch of movie vehicles there. I never ended up doing it, insurance reasons, but I did go to him and I did sit in that truck, and it was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, well, that's amazing right there. That's a classic cinema truck, if any.
Yes, it was really, really, really cool. So, but yeah, go check out Convoy if you could find it. If you have a physical copy, you've probably already seen it before. So, it's a fun movie. I'm glad we did the 70s. We have to go back to the 70s a little bit more.
I agree. It's one of my favorite time periods. There's just so many great films, and they're very interesting things, because I feel a lot of these movies you just don't get movies like you did in the 70s, anymore. There's just something so special about that time period.
Yeah, there's something organic about the way they're shot too. I can't really figure out what it is, but there's a unique look to them, and I don't know. Yeah, it's
because they shot so many movies like almost like documentary style, so it feels like it's more real than like almost like, because you think about movies like in the 50s and even like early 60s and so on, and you just got the perfect lighting and the perfect makeup and so on. And don't get me wrong, I like that look too, but then you just get these kind of grungy 70s and late 60s movies and so on, where they're shot probably if maybe not even the greatest equipment and so on like that, but people don't have makeup on, they're sweating, they look real, it looks brutal and so on. The environment, the conditions probably aren't great. It's like when you see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know what I mean? Like that almost kind of embodies like that feel of like, you can see why people thought that might have been real.
Yeah, exactly.
It just has that kind of like take to it. And I feel like that's just 70s filmmaking in general. Everybody looks sweaty for some reason. They just didn't hire that boy that used to come on by off the towel and, take the sweat off you.
Well, yeah, definitely check this film out. I'll let everybody know. So we're going to probably do one more episode, take a slight break because I'm going to move, but I do have a video coming out. I will have some stuff in between. So there shouldn't be a break in content, but I'll let everybody know what's going on. I'll have a little video coming out where I'm going to kind of update everybody on what's going on via VHS and where it's going, some things we're adding to it. I had a chance to plan some stuff where I went home and I'm filming some of the places I grew up going to, because I have a feeling they're getting ready to be torn down. And for some reason, the mall that I grew up going to and the movie theater I grew up going to are very popular on YouTube already. It's weird. Dan Bell's been there and Ace's Adventures has been to the mall. So I thought I should probably go there and give my insight on that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do like a little nostalgia tour in a couple weeks. And then, so I've got some other stuff coming up, but I think in the near future, we'll be diving into more of the nostalgia topics, some extra things, maybe some TV stuff. I know Spencer would like to get into some cartoons or something animated as well, I'm sure.
I can always do that.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, any big shout outs, any big news, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Actually, by the time this episode might come out, it might be pretty darn close to Pizza Boys issue 12 being out there. So it should be around this, give or take, if anything. So you can always check out that comic book that I make, Pizza Boys. Go to oldmanorange.com. It's got all the information there. It comes up on Amazon Kindle and Comixology and all that stuff. That's Pizza Boys with a Z. But that would be the big news right there.
There you go.
And it's even got a Via VHS kind of theme, because the intro starts off with like a big old movie theater of like, I kind of put all the bad kind of stereotypes I've ever seen of like when you go to a movie theater and you're like, oh great, these people are here, these the old people being loud, the people running up and down the stairs, throwing stuff, leaving trash everywhere, all that stuff I kind of combined into
those
like
a-holes.
One. Those just crazy people that just want to ruin good time, cinema.
That's the reason we're getting all digital, people. Are you a-holes?
There's always somebody out there that ruined the fun, but
they really are, man. So definitely go check that out. And if you're like, hey, I don't know where to find it, what did he say? The links are down below. So you got all kinds of, you get links to Old Man Orange as well, and oldmanorange.com and all kinds of fun stuff. So links down below. Go find that stuff. Stay tuned for all kinds of new Via VHS stuff that we're going to be doing here soon, and maybe some extracurricular stuff and coming throughout the summer. We'll see what's going to go on with that. But anyway, thanks for listening. Find us on Twitter at Via VHS. Find us on Instagram at Via VHS Pod. And with that, Via VHS is out.